Uh, Today I'm here not to really show off the kind of works that we've done in these so many years, but make an honest effort to look back and analyze how the office has grown and very objectively what are the kind of challenges we faced at various stages, which I can share with you. Some of that could be relevant for you when you set up your practice, and that is the primary objective of today's presentation. So no photographs, no works, it's going to be all text and a boring one to look at. But if you are attentive, you might have a few things to take back. Uh, Especially in college, we somehow tend to believe that designing, or so to say, the concept design is the most important thing in the practice. And that is how we come out, and then you join an office for some work, and you get a rude shock that even the gold medalist feels very inadequate in terms of his understanding about so many aspects of practical uh, construction and so many other aspects of practice. So in this brief presentation about in next half an hour, 35 minutes, I would like to take you through the various challenges I faced, but rather than making it very personal, I've tried to make it more generalized so that you can find an application. So I'm going to share my screen now. Right. So I'd like to conclude the presentation in about 35 or 40 minutes and leave the last 10 minutes to question answers. I think it is going to be a very important part because that will actually tell me whether you're taking anything home or not. So I'll start with my effort now. So it's very interesting. This year we completed 20 years of our practice. Uh, it's been such an eventful 20 years. Google Maps was, I guess, found during this period. When I started the practice, it was the beginning of AutoCAD. We used to use AutoCAD version 9. I don't think you can even relate to it. There was no BIM, no Revit, that kind of a scenario. Uh, when we were in college, not a single professor talked to us about green buildings. Nobody talked about sustainability. It was all about the master architect or the master builder trying to create magic in this world. So that is my context when I graduated. And this is me and Saloni, the founder and the co-founder. Like some of you, we met at college. Saloni was in first year and I was in third when we met. And then the partnership began right from there. So during those SEP days from 92 to 2003, don't be surprised by the 11 years. It was quite common in those days to hang around on the campus for such a long time. So that's where I met Saloni. And during these 11 years, we we're lucky to study under Professor Chaya, Professor Anant Raje, uh, Kiran Pandya, Sohan Bhai, Professor Verki, and of course, Professor Doshi, Bimal Patel, and all. So all these years, I was always wondering what kind of practice I would like to set up. And then eventually I got an opportunity to work with HCP. And so this was when the new IIM campus was being constructed. I used to work part-time after my teaching hours while I was doing my post-graduation in urban design. So I used to go there every day and I used to wonder how 150 people were kept busy working when nobody was supervising them. I was very fascinated by that how do these offices work? I was never really so attracted by a very small practice led by one person. So that is something which came naturally to me. But as always, once we get off the college, there were just two of us wondering what to do. We came back to Surat in 2003 once Saloni was done with her postgrad in planning. And then here I would like to explain you that we have a heart and a brain and a head. So technically they represent the right brain and the left brain. Right brain is the heart and left brain is the head. And to set up a practice, we need both of them. And I'd like you to stress upon that, what actually it means. And so the role of the heart is to tell you what to do. And the role of the head is to tell you how to do. These are two very important aspects which you will have to use all through your practice whenever you get challenged and in general. To elaborate a little more, let us say you have a ladder and you have to decide, you have to put it on some wall and climb the building. What to do will tell you which building or which wall you should put the ladder on, and how to do will tell you how you have to use your skills and your strength to climb the ladder very fast. So these are two different things, and it requires two uh, aspects of our mind. To generalize it or to explain it a little clearer, so heart represents leadership and the head represents management. Usually these words are confused at times, but these are very, very different words. And to have a good practice, you need to have both of them. So leadership is where the imagination comes from, the creativity, the out of the box thinking, the courage, the risk taking ability, the compassion or the feeling for people, the ambition, uh, aspects about values and ethics. So all these things come as part of the leadership package you have within you, and it will tell you what to do. And management is all about logic, reasoning, analysis, mathematics, skill development. Sorry, ethics and values is copy paste, so ignore that. So these are basically the 5 aspects of management. So कितना जल्दी लैडर चढ़ सकते हैं वो मैनेजमेंट विल टेल, बट कौन सी दीवार पे लैडर रखना है दैट लीडरशिप विल टेल. So keep this set of understanding in your mind throughout this presentation, because the whole presentation is in terms of this. So we started with 2 people. So what does the leadership aspect or the heart do when there are just 2 people who begin? So leadership obviously is single point. There's only one people, or in this case, 2 people deciding, discussing what to do. किस type का काम करना है. You want to do very, very minimal modern architecture. I want to do this, I want to do that. So all that comes from a single point of understanding. Business development, where does the first word come from? During this stage 1, which I call the inception of a practice, business development is a big deal, and usually it comes from one of the relatives, your own house, maybe your own office, or somebody wanted to redo a kitchen, those kind of things. So wahan se aata hai, and that is also a single point. At the same time, fresh out of college, your hunger for excellence is very high. You are yearning to prove yourself, your understanding about uh, design, whatever you learned in college, what you always wanted to try, and then also the values and ethics. This is also the stage when the seeds for values and ethics are set. It largely depends on your context. If you are surrounded by people who feel that little bit of corruption here and there, a bit of commission here and there is okay, then that value is set, and that will decide where you go. And if you come from a background where the morals are very high, then those kind of values and ethics will be set. And then, of course, there is an urge for recognition. So you also want that people know you, that you have designed this, you designed that. Now, mind you, this is when 2 people start when they have not done anything. This is what the heart tells you. And the mind, it says, okay, we'll need an office. Where does it come from? So let's begin at home, or let's in those times there was no co-working, but now it's a very, very beautiful option available that let's start in a co-working space. It will give us networking opportunities also. And for some lucky few, dad's office has an extra room and you might want to set up from there. So that is what the mind is thinking, your head is thinking. And then what about finance? Finance तो कितना important होता है, पैसा तो चाहिए. Now, when you start off, you are largely dependent on your parents or whomsoever you dependent on, and you want to prove yourself by just sustaining yourself, that you stop taking money which you've been taking all your life from your parents or your guardian. That is your first milestone you want to achieve, and it's matter of sustenance. So normally इस time पे हम fees का standard नहीं सोचते. We never think कि मैं I have to work only with so much fees. ऐसा नहीं सोचते. जो मिलेगा चलेगा, काम करो. That is the mindset which during the inception stage it begins. The moment you start doing the smallest thing, there are a lot of challenges in material understanding. Budget, client always comes with a budget, and throughout our 5 years of academics, nobody is really challenged us on budget. तो पहले ही उसमें गूगली आता है, client asks कि ये kitchen बनाना है, कितने में होगा, and you are totally blank. And then begins the whole research of visiting the vendors, understanding from them, etc., etc. So that is a very, very big challenge, which is the knowledge. And obviously, when you are all by yourself, you don't think of much of any organized way of working, because you are the master, and all the task planning happens from single point. Now that you've finished the kitchen, you've done a good job, maybe you also did an apartment interior or a small extension to a house, you feel that थोड़ा काम आने लगा है, let us now initiate into an office. So that is the step 2, which is the initiation. So other than the founder and co-founder, there are maybe 2-3 more people. One could be a draftsperson, one could be an intern, one could be a multitasker. तो ये 5 लोगों का एक छोटा सा स्टार्टअप ऑफिस स्टार्ट होता है. And what happens? So on the hard front, nothing changes. So leadership is the same from single point. Business development is again one person's responsibility. Hunger for excellence is still there. Values and ethics are still there. Urge for recognition is still there क्योंकि अभी तक कुछ मिला ही नहीं है. And then what happens in the management part? So from the home office, you have to move out to either co-working or rent out a small office space. So एक suddenly दिमाग में आता है कि okay, now I would have to spend 10 to 15,000 rupees every month on this, तो इतना तो कमाना ही पड़ेगा. Finance becomes challenge when you have to decide the salary for your new team, because it's you versus them. Higher you pay, your profitability goes down, and anyway the fund flow is not so even in the beginning. So there's always this challenge कि कैसे करेंगे, and the people who come to you, they say कि हमको इतना चाहिए, and you're not able to afford them, and as a result the team has a very high rate of attrition. So लोग आते हैं जाते हैं 2-4 महीने में, 1 साल अगर कोई टिक गया then you're lucky, and that is how it keeps on happening. The team keeps on churning. The knowledge challenges remain the same of material understanding and costing. Task planning still happens from the single point, and the challenge of data management starts surfacing. अरे ये उसके CPU में है, इसके PC में है, ये file. That kind of chaos starts happening, and you start understanding कि यार साला data को manage करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो कैसे होगा? A lot of times you have presentation and you can't find the final file, and you take the wrong file. All these things I'm telling by my own experience, and trust me, it is very embarrassing. So that is what happens at the initiation stage when you have really initiated the office. Next step. Now you've done a few apartment interiors, you've done a few small extensions, maybe one bungalow, etc. You're feeling the confidence. I'm here to stay now. So you start building a team, and let us say a team of 10. I call it a tiny practice. Team of 10 is a tiny practice in our context. So again, on the hard side, nothing changes. You're still the single point of everything. Your morals are high, recognition की need book वैसे की वैसी है. You start applying for some awards, maybe here and there, maybe social media पे some publication published your some project and you feeling good about it. So all those things happen on the hard side. On the head side, uh, from rented office, you might start considering owning a small office or maybe making it a little bigger. Finance, this is the time when you start understanding formal accounting. I remember in 2005 or 6, we were 10 people in the office, and I actually had an accountant coming over once or twice a week. Balance sheet क्या होता है? They never taught me except how to read a balance sheet. Profit and loss कैसे गिनते हैं नहीं पता था. So you start poking your nose into those kind of accounting systems because ultimately that is where you are able to control and understand a lot of things. In the team, still the attrition rate is high because you're not a very celebrated or a decorated office. So people who come here come out of less of a choice because they didn't get into so and so office, and as a result जैसे ही chance मिलता है they go away. Sustaining employees for 2 to 3 years is considered an achievement for this size of offices because they come, they learn, and then they feel कि मैं भी अपना start करूँगा या करूँगी, and they are gone. And you are again scratching your head okay, training session has to start again with the new batch of people joining in. In the knowledge part, I guess you by this time you understood the contracting, the cost, etc. But now the search is to constantly upgrade about what are the trends, materials, new technologies, etc. Because you want to do things which are latest in today's context or whatever context you're doing it. So catching up, you have to do because that's not what you learned in your college. These are the new things, new trends, and you start forming a habit of upgrading yourself. The task planning still happens from the single point, and data management challenges start getting worse. Worst case में क्या होता है, कोई भी एक पीसी में एक फोल्डर बनता है सर्वर नाम का और उसके अंदर सारे प्रोजेक्ट के नाम से you start making folders and then you start putting data there. That is the very nascent form of the first server which comes into an office normally. What happens after that? 10 ka 20 ho gaya. You're really doing well. You found a niche. Like in our case, diamond factories is something which became our niche, and we started growing fast. In the process, we also won quite a few awards at national level or the zonal levels, and that again started spreading the word. So from a tiny office, we became a boutique office. Usually I term an office around 20 people as a boutique practice. So in a boutique practice, what is the role of the heart? Again, nothing changes. Leadership अभी भी वही है. मैं जो बोलूँगा वही होना चाहिए. That is what the leadership is about. I know what to do, what you should do, और पूरा task एक ही जगह से manage होता है. Now the list on the head side starts getting bigger. You run out of space, so you suddenly start thinking कि अभी मैं नया ऑफिस लूँ तो क्या साइज का लूँ. The software companies start noticing you that कि अभी ये बड़ा ऑफिस है, pirated software use कर रहा है, and then your inner instincts also tell you कि you must buy official software. So you start buying 1 or 2 of those softwares, and that becomes your major expenses. Finance में क्या होता है? Now you have a team, so you realize that there are some performers, so you can't treat everybody same, but at the same time there's a limit to how much you can pay additional in salary because fund flow is still not so good or so consistent. So you start finding out ways to incentivize people. For example, कोई ऑफिस में ऐसे होता है कि प्रोजेक्ट बेस्ड दे देते हैं कि तू ये प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट करके दे, देन आई विल गिव यू एक्स अमाउंट over and above your salary, or I'll give you X percentage for doing carrying out these projects. So these are the kind of initial ways of incentivizing people which starts happening. Uh, you realize that I need to take care of performers, because if I don't take care of the performers, तो मैं कितना invest करूँगा team building में? So the rate of attrition starts reducing a bit. There's a medium rate of attrition in these kind of offices. Also, people start finding friends within the office. But 20 people here, you usually start making groups, going out for lunch, etc. So that is the kind of atmosphere which starts generating. The task planning is still happening from the single point. जो हेड है ऑफिस का वो पूरे मैन टू मैन अभी भी टास्क दे रहा है कि you responsibilities भी allocate कर रहा है. Lot of offices I've seen it still happens on day-to-day basis. So if the head is not well for a few days, then it's like almost like a vacation scene in the office. That is what happens. Data management में you usually invest in a central server, and then a new word gets added, delivery system. Delivery system क्या होता है कि when you are making your drawing in college, you are using line thicknesses or line weights based on your understanding of what is right. The information that is put in a drawing can vary from person to person. So there are so many things which make the drawings inconsistent in terms of information and the presentation. So you start thinking, okay, if it's a drawing from this office, it has to look like this and it needs to have certain information. So the head starts thinking about what kind of delivery system would be required, kaisa standardization we can do. Also, a lot of mistakes happen in the drawings. So how to increase the predictability? I remember I used to have some checklists for toilets and checklists for this and that. So हर एक बंदा ड्राइंग बना के उसको टिक करता था कि ये हो गया, ये हो गया, ये हो गया. And in today's context, now you start thinking about seriously about marketing, because like it, you don't like it, but social media has a tremendous impact on the perception. Our whole profession is about perception, and social media does have an important role to play. So you do that. At the same time, you do an amateur website to share with your clients. So this is what happens with the head during the boutique practice stage. Now, the office does very well and it starts growing. And let us say you are 35. So we hit 35 in 2013. From 2003, when we started, to 2013, it took us 10 years to reach 35 people at that time. Again, leadership hard side, it is still single point, but it starts getting so complicated that it starts reaching the limits. Okay, एक बंदा ही leader है, and if he has to do all the thinking of what to do, तो उसका एक limit आ जाता है. So the limits are felt, the ceilings are felt, and then business development still remains single point, because usually the founder becomes the face of the company, and people know the company or the firm by the name of the person. So business development doesn't change much, but the leadership aspects does get challenged. Values, ethics, recognition remains the same, but this is the time when you start getting little bit extra manpower available, and you start thinking that now I have this strength, how do I leverage the strength to get supplementing growth models? So that search starts at this stage. Ki, what is next? Where does this end? Or where does this go from here? So a lot of firms I've seen, they get into various kind of complementing businesses like furniture design or green building certification, etc., etc. So that search starts probably at this stage in most of these offices. On the head side, again, the office might be very small because you bought it for, or you rented it for 20 people, now you're 35. So it's a very interesting phenomenon which a growing office goes through. So every few years you have to move your office unless you have deep pockets to invest into a very large office upfront. But that's very rare. In terms of finance, you start exploring models of revenue and profit sharing. So till certain point, you have your incentives working, but then when you start getting second line of leaders, they are not just content with more money. They also need to have the freedom of doing things the way they want to do. So that second line of leaders becomes very important. And in those cases, आप कितना salary दोगे उनको? So they have to share your risk because the practice is a risk. And if there is somebody who is kind of also leading with you now, they also need to take the risk. If you try to pay them a lot as a fixed salary, that whole incentive of or the motivation to do really well kind of gets diluted, and it always becomes you versus them. But when you go for models of revenue sharing or profit sharing, both of you or all these people are on the same side. They all are trying hard to make the office flourish. From knowledge point of view, semi-formal knowledge sharing systems start developing. You find a need of training people so that they share the knowledge so that एक direction मिलता है practice को, and that is very important. It could be maybe landscape design कि हमारी office ऐसा करती है, या for instance we are fascinated with exposed concrete, form finished concrete. So we have extensive sessions to teach the new people कि what are the basics of this, ये कैसे काम करता है, क्यों हम इसमें काम करते हैं, to build up the conviction also. So a lot of these things start happening as semi-formal knowledge sharing systems. Task planning now starts happening from multiple points. The larger goals are fixed, and the leaders and the second line of leaders, they divide the task, and then both of them have their own teams, and they start giving instructions. It is impossible for an office of 35 that every day man-to-man instructions can be given by one person. It is physically impossible. So a lot of offices I've seen, they stop growing around this size. ये 30 के ऊपर नहीं जा पाते हैं क्योंकि वो कंट्रोल छूटता नहीं है. They cannot trust other people also exhibiting the leadership and giving out instructions in their own way. This is a very insecure feeling जिसकी वजह से वो 30 पे तक आके रुक जाते हैं. This is what we call the small size practices. So this is where we are today. We call ourselves medium sized practice. We are about 80 people. In this you can see orange, blue, green colored Corbusier's men. And what do they signify is that there are now multiple kinds of centers from which instructions are given and the office is being handled. So what happens from the heart? So now leadership is properly organized into multiple points, and there are boards. The board decides the overall policies, and there are multiple points of leadership. Business development also starts happening from multiple points because you may develop verticals or profit centers within the office. And for instance, in this diagram, the green box, the orange box, and the red box depict the various verticals or the profit centers, each having their own leaders and sub leaders and the team. So everything starts getting decentralized. Still, the hunger of excellence remains the same. Values and ethics. It's very important that it keeps on percolating. As your office grows, your vulnerability to ethics, it increases because the stakes are high, and if you have people who are getting involved into fraudulent practices or corrupt practices, they might really damage you a lot. So I would always suggest to have very, very clear norms or policies for unethical practices. Urge of recognition remains high because now it has a direct relation to the marketing or the branding of the firm. And supplementing growth models are tried out, alternative models, verticals, associations, collaborations. There are so many models existing in this world where you may not have these many people sitting in one place, but still it's a very large team across cities working together. So you really need to kind of figure out how you're going to collaborate and work together. And this list is obviously very long now. Office, yes, still larger office, but you can also start now thinking of satellite offices or collaborations with other firms. So we've tried all of these and all of these work. In terms of finance, you have to start thinking of a formal organizational structure. Your legal aspect becomes very important, and legally also you need to learn what are your responsibilities and what is at stake when you run an office. And when I say formal organizational structure, there are models like a partnership firm or a limited liability partnership or an LLP, which we are. There are private limited companies, and you really need to understand what is the best suited model for your vision and your organization. But at this scale, it is not advisable nor feasible to avoid such a decision. Finance will start seeing multiple profit centers emerging. Unless that happens, your office is very vulnerable. If the income is coming only from one basket, and if something happens to that, you are very vulnerable. So it is prudent to have a risk management policy by which you have multiple profit centers. The team has now partners, associates, and there is intense team building activities. अभी क्या होता है कि it is impossible to really do any kind of man-to-man marketing. So you really need to rely on a lot of training sessions and a lot of systems with checks and balances. In terms of knowledge, these kind of firms has to be constantly searching for the emerging models in the world. This whole knowledge is about adaptability. Can you adapt to the changing? For instance, if I say AI is coming, can you adapt to it? Green building, sustainability, I never learned in college. Am I able to understand it and adapt to it? So those kind of things become very, very important. Then the task planning now becomes hierarchical and decentralized. Data management, now you need your data becomes very, very important. So you need a very secure central server, cloud backup with all kinds of systems so that your data is saved, because if your server is gone now, you will not know what to do. So maybe it's prudent to have multiple backups on cloud or somewhere else, etc. Delivery systems now are fairly set systems, and management for strict implementation of system becomes very important. System set ho gaya for every step of delivery, and management of these implementation becomes very crucial, because if that does not happen, again there is a chaos, big chaos which you cannot control. Marketing, a lot of offices have seen at this scale, they start thinking of developing a dedicated cell for websites, presentations, social media marketing, documentation, a lot of photography to be done, photographs to be edited and then to be stored. As a practice, if you have seen our website, you can download a lot of project presentations. So those kind of presentations also need to be done properly. So it's all part of marketing, and we need a lot of offices start developing these kind of team. In terms of management, pure management or administration of the office, you need to establish a central management structure across the verticals with their checks and balances. Discipline is the key to handle scales of like this or bigger than this. And if you don't have a proper management system which keeps a checks and balances across the verticals, then you are in for big trouble. Your stakes every month is very high. Your expenditure every month is so high that if you don't do this, you will have a lot of sleepless nights. And of course, with technological advancements, the AI, machine learning, or 3D printing, energy modeling, etc. ये सब नया नया आता ही रहता है, and you really need to have resources to constantly learn this and try to implement it. Being 20 years old office, now we have people working in the office who are 20 years younger to us. So they come from a very different context. They are so friendly with these new technologies, but they don't have the practical understanding of its applications. So a good partnership between the experience and the new knowledge is the key for future. So it's the hard and head combination, how you look at it, uh, which actually decides the fate of the practice. And through this, now I'd like to focus on what did we do and what is our learning. So this, I'm calling it lessons learned. And throughout these 20 years of practice, what did I learn? So the first point is about integrity. Uh, Unfortunately, we live in a time where it is very easy to find people offering you money or favors to sell their material or services for the client. And right from the beginning, from the first day, I had a very strong understanding about how I want to do. And in these 20 years, there has been not a single time where I've been lured by anything. And it has turned out that anybody who wants to do a larger project, it needs to trust a lot with a lot of money. They see us as a very safe option, because apart from the designing skills, it's the integrity which is a very important value for them. So it has become the best long-term policy. So as a policy in our office, we have zero tolerance to commissions or favors from vendors or suppliers. This is clearly communicated to anybody who enters the office on the first day. The day if they are found, they are relieved from immediate effect. There is no discussion on this. And integrity is not just about the monies and the commissions. It is also very high value for commitments of time and quality to the client. As an office, we believe in really fulfilling commitments of time, because everybody has a plan. The clients who come to you, they have a plan. Uh, they have their dreams. And if you really take a lot of time in delivering things, they wait, but it is not the best thing for them. Uh, we feel immense gratitude towards our clients who trust us, and we feel that commitments of time and quality are extremely important, and this is absolutely a feature of integrity. Second lesson learned is team is everything, and we need to learn to trust them. I see a lot of offices where the junior designers, they are refrained from getting exposure to the client, or they're not taught to do things with a deep insecurity कि ये लोग सीख के भाग जाएंगे. But right from the day one, like Sankalpa mentioned, it is S team. So team is everything for us, and we've never had any kind of barriers for the team to not learn. And this has really helped us a lot. So we are about 80 plus member team now. Very importantly is that 25% of the team members are about 10 years with ST. Now this is an extremely rare thing you will come across once you get into the practice. Imagine 20 people in the office have been along for more than 10 years, of which 16 people have been along for more than 15 years. Now this is the wealth we have accumulated in these 20 years, and that is what matters. And for the team, it's never, money is important, yes, they do have their needs, finance is important, but that's not the only thing which they come for. They come for fulfillment, they come for identity, they come for making friends. And we have been following this practice for 15 years, that every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. we have a 3 to 5 activity in which we do all kinds of things for mental health, emotional health. We play a lot of games, we have fun. I can't say we do ragging or reproduction on the college platform, but some mild version of that also happens for the people newly joining. We celebrate festivals together, we do cricket, table tennis, and all these things actually binds the team together. This again, we don't learn in college, but this is the core of a good office according to us, and this is what we have learned, and we don't regret a bit of doing this. The third is balancing courage and consideration. Uh, there is a conscience within us which tells us what to. There is also a greed which tells us this is very good, lucrative thing to do, and let's do more and more of it. But at the same time, we also need to have consideration towards many other things where courage is not required. For example, thinking about the planet. So when you say planet, this is the only one we have. It's quite cliched, we're hearing it again and again. But genuinely, if you try to understand it, if you senselessly try consuming material after material, just because you're working on a percentage fees, then I think it's a short way to do. And you really need to exhibit a maturity of how much is enough, and the sensibility and the sensitivity needs to percolate down to the team. As an initiative, I'm very proud that as part of the celebration of 20 years, we started a small initiative called Surat Kapda Bank, where we are reaching out to other offices, our own office, clients, vendors, collecting good clothes which they are not wearing, and we are trying to provide them to the laborers working on the various sites, not just of our office, but everybody. The mission is to actually have each and every labor working in this construction industry on site have proper clothes. So again, this is not making any profit. This is not a marketing tool. But this is something you have to do because the profession is giving you so much. So this is the responsibility which also is very important, which we learned. Fourth, very importantly, like most of you are right now, I hope, be a good listener. You know why it helps? Most of the clients who I have, in the first meeting or in the second meeting, I hardly have anything to say. I only absorb what they have to say, their aspirations, their problems, the difficulties which they have faced, to a level that they start understanding that I have understood them totally. When that happens, the trust build. Uske baad, there are no conflicts. They'll allow you to do whatever you want to do and express whatever you want to do. I see a lot of fellow designers who have a lot of conflicts with their clients. कि मुझे ये करना है पर वो समझता नहीं है, वो करने नहीं देता है. अरे भाई, he is paying you to understand him. He is not supposed to understand you. This is not an ego game. The client does not need your signature. That is the understanding which we got very early in our practice, and it has helped us create a client base which are almost everybody is a repeat client. Not that because you're doing some extraordinary work, but because they feel we understand them better. Same is with the team members. If we are able to create a scenario where the team members are freely able to come and tell you about their problems, their aspirations, etc., that is a very good place to be in. And similarly, vendors and contractors, these are actually the backbone of any practice. We may design things on paper, but these are the guys who actually build it. And they have a lot of practical knowledge and a lot of tricks of the trade. If you respect them, they'll teach you a lot. And listening to them has also helped us a lot throughout our practice, and still we are continuously learning. So this is the fourth realization we have. Fifth one is relentless pursuit in the value of fairness. a very interesting point. Uh, Whenever you start a firm and you start seeing success, obviously uh, money also flows along with it, and you try to figure out how much should I share, what is the right percentage which I share with my future partner, etc., and what is fair. Trust me, whenever after sharing you feel you have been unfair to yourself, is the best way to go about it. That always works, because it is not about the percentage what you are getting, but it is about what is the size of the cake which you are making along with those people. And all the time we're trying to figure it out, that we want to be fair to everybody, and this has really helped, and it is very evident in the kind of leadership team we have. I'm so proud of each one of them. So many of them have been my students in college, and they've joined me. For most of them, it has been their first job, and then they became the partner. And that is how we are. This is esteem for me. This is the strength, and I really love each one of them. The sixth lesson I learned is be future ready. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, things are changing every day. Chat GPT is all over the place now. We already started exploring some AI softwares to create forms which otherwise we cannot imagine. And there are a lot of talks about कि आगे जाके architects क्या करेंगे if even working drawings are done by AI. Even we are clueless. But as of now, we have learned to be future ready. For instance, we've done almost 30 buildings which are green certified. We actually have a policy that everybody who joins office, architects, interior designers, they have to clear the IGBC AP exam or a lead exam within the 6 months. So those are the things which we are ready for. We have somebody in the office who understands 30 softwares, knows coding, etc. मुझे कुछ समझ में नहीं आता, but I try to understand and see how it can be used for the future. But in the whole process, we've actually created a whole bouquet and provide single point delivery to our clients. So everything that you want is being delivered. What you see below are the various verticals that we have built up over a period. I was talking to you about exploring new avenues. So Esteem, of course, does the architecture, interiors, and green buildings. Then Oblique is headed by Saloni. It does the art integration and product design services. It's very handy to have this kind of an art integration firm within the office, because the conceptualizing of the space and the art happens simultaneously and they're more relevant. Then we realized that we really need to have a very strong backbone for giving execution support to our clients. So Amalgus was formed in 2020, which does primarily project management, but it also is now attempting to do design and build and turnkey solutions. Design and build, by the way, are going to be very, very common in years to come, because people do not want to engage with so many different stakeholders and agencies to get a project done. The youngest baby is Homelane. Homelane is a franchisee store of a startup from Bangalore, which does very budgeted home interiors. They have, it's all software driven, and it's a model. I request you to go through the website and see where the business is gone for budgeted home interiors. So it has nothing to do with what Esteem does. It does more elaborate interiors, but Homeland is also a segment which is not tapped right now, and they are doing a great job. And then Urban Initiatives is a firm which works, it's partnership firm with my friend Vishal. It works for urban planning and urban design. So that's how what we tried to build up during these 20 years, looking at the future. Seventh, systems are crucial, and believing in it is even more crucial. This is very important, that just like you do your training and you build up your courage, you build up your risk-taking abilities, you invest into more infrastructure. If you don't have your systems in place, then you will not be able to run the show. A lot of people are averse to using systems. They feel they are kind of suffocating for them, which they are not, never, I guess. But it's just the mindset of not having the discipline to be working in a system. If you're alone, if you are like me and Saloni, how we started in the beginning, then probably don't need systems. But when you grow, if you don't have them, you're done. So so we have a very interesting standard operating procedure manual, which documents each and every step of practice, and there's exact description of how it should be done. There are formats for that. So anybody can be trained to use this within a month. And then there is a Clockify, which is a software which documents the work hours on every project, which often helps us justify our efforts to the client. A lot of times clients say कि क्या किया आपने? Then we are able to send them that this is the amount of effort which has been put on your project by this team, and this is what the cost which office has incurred. And these are the kind of things which help us, which has helped esteem a lot. And then there is clarifying expectations through documents like code of conduct, time and leave policy, HR policies, accounting formats, so on and so forth. And the last realization is that a lot of times you may plan so much, you may think so much, you have dreamt so much, but our efforts usually are not everything. There is a huge factor of chance or luck, if you like to use that word, to make something happen. A lot of the energies in the world need to conspire and converge at the same time for something to happen. So you may like to put in a lot of efforts with a lot of sincerity, but if it does not work out, you should be okay. We have done a few competitions, some of them we won, but some of them we were so close, we did so well, but for reasons not known to us, we were not able to crack it. Life has to move on. It should not give us sleepless nights. So this 8 realization is probably the most important one I carry in my life every day. So that's about it. That's what I wanted to share today. Uh, if there are any reflection on this, or maybe you want to ask any question, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay, are there questions? You can either speak or you can put it in the chat box. I have questions. If they don't have, people who practice will have a lot of questions. My first question uh, is the introduction of the management system. When the scale changes, okay, how does that happen? Is there an in-between stage? Is there a specialized people coming, or in the beginning there is somebody who is doing both finance and some other common job? When did it happen to really hire a management chap versus when it happened that somebody else was doing just on behalf because the scale was of a certain kind? You know, that shift and that clarity, when does that happen?
So when you start growing, for example, in our case, when we reached about 20, we had a couple of people who were with us for a long time, architects, Jigar, if I would name it. And there are a lot of discussions कि यार ये problem आ रहा है तो कैसे solve करें? It all starts with a problem, and then you start figuring out कि okay, AutoCAD में ये pen style डालते हैं and let's have all the consistency. Text size ऐसे करते हैं. A lot of times when you don't find your files, you make a folder system. Then file का naming system, we never do underscore final or underscore final or underscore mark का sum इस बार final. ऐसा नहीं होता है ऑफिस में. There is always a way to write the file name. So all this comes out of necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. So there is no professional help you can get to tell you what you need to do as systems. You can find people to implement it. So once you have everything on Excel and it's done, then you can go to a software guy and say, "Okay, abhi humko isko automatic karke do." That is possible. But as a designer, you have to have time dedicated to management. Otherwise, अगर पूरा दिन डिजाइन में लगे रहोगे, माइक्रो मैनेजमेंट में लगे रहोगे, then you will find you cannot grow.
When does, to add to that, when does HR system finds its way into the office?
Ideally, it should find way when the first employee is there. HR system का primary role क्या है? So it is to clarify expectations. What you are entitled to, what you are expected to do, what are your responsibilities and what are your rights. So ideally, in any form, it has to be there in the first place whenever you hire somebody. For example, if somebody joins you when you are a very tiny office, and after a while, the question starts coming to the mind, okay, what is my future? Next year kya hoga? So if you don't have policies in place, you will start working with your biases. People whom you like, you may give more favors. People whom you feel are not so performing so well, आप उनसे कुछ injustice करोगे, then the comparison happens and they feel यार मेरा यहाँ काम नहीं है. That is why people leave. So informal form or formal form. Ideally, it should happen when you begin your practice and when you have your first employee.
Yeah, please, if there are more questions, I can keep asking, but I would suggest you guys need to ask.
College में professional practice used to be a very boring subject.
Many of them are on this side.
Yeah.
Many of them are on this side. The moment the next month they are on the other side, they know, they will realize how important is it.
Yeah.
And every penny of that, this recording is like a gem. So maybe Rajshri, we should not give this recording to everyone. Because it has a lot of secrets. It has got a lot. So anyway, my reflection is that the presentation was extremely systematic. It was as if once upon a time there used to be a book called ABC Dummies kind of a book. If you remember in computer science and others, it was there. So almost to me, it appeared to be like that I was running through every stages of it. And there was a systematic way in which that the particularity of the problem has been identified in those structures and how it has been addressed. In fact, I can see where, for example, our office is there and exactly those problems are there, what you're trying to point out. Okay. Now, what it means is that now when you said about the next step, I already know what is going to come next because I have a sense of it anyway. And now you're saying exactly that these are the things and there are ways in which you're resolving. I find this quite fascinating. I mean, for me, I mean, as a office which has just completed 10 years, I think it's just fascinating to sort of see how each stages, each system, how it is systematically placed. Okay, because here, if the office is not working, then forget about the design part of it, because all this system is there for that to work well and to get the delivery sort of in place. Of course, our complexity is slightly different because our execution wing, we started our execution wing, furniture wing 5 years back. So in the 5th year of our practice itself, we have our design and build wing, our furniture wing, as well as our sort of other wings. But I can see all the problems. Guys, if you have anything, there are questions in the chat box. So,
how do you grow as a firm? Sorry, how to get more projects, because now you realize you are ready to go to the next step. To be honest, you can't time it. All you can do is do justice to each and every work you get, document it, and see who is your audience and whether you can push that work to them or not. A lot of things is of course by chance. I don't think we planned our growth or practice, but if you are consistently delivering what you believe in and what you promise, your clients are there to stay. The clients, usually, if I may say, are quite naive. They don't really understand architecture per se the way we see it, but they look at what kind of behavior we have, what kind of client satisfaction we are trying to provide, how prompt are we on our commitments, and in the end, if the project ended well or not. I think these are the things which the client notices, and he is the one who will refer you to his friend who is building a villa. That's how it has worked. It's organic. Jayashree, I hope I answered your question.
Hi. So just a follow up on that. When if you say it's organic, is there a system for that also? Like, because is there a way to calibrate it? Because at some point it's not organic, right? Or is there a trick to do that?
See, I think you have to have a fair assessment of what you are good at. So, my understanding is that if I may say, I would like to become like Gurjeet, or I would like to become like Bimal. My inclination is towards Bimal because I love scale and I love all a structured way of thinking. I'm not an artist. I'm not a brilliant form designer or a space designer, so to say. But I really like to do very nice functional spaces. And that is how, when I got my first diamond factory in Surat, I thought this is actually what I would enjoy. And today we are doing so many factories. We're saving so much of electricity, energy cost for our clients. We're making buildings which are very easy to manage. We do it on time so that the business flourishes. So that is the kind of trust we have built up in a particular niche. So you have to find out where you fit in and then make an effort on that side and hope that it clicks.
You have another question.
So Karan, you are asking where can we put being involved in academics as part of practice today? It's a very nice question. So I was a full-time teacher for 2 years when Sankalp probably was studying. Because I thought nobody would understand me, the kind of exposure I had, Surat was not the market for that, and there was kind of a negativity with it. कि कोई समझेगा नहीं, तो let me just stick to academics. But I was wrong there. Fortunately, I got an opportunity to do some larger projects. So I took a conscious call that I will come back to teach only when I have something to show. Because it is, I didn't like the idea of teaching when I have not proved myself or done enough. So at that time when I quit, I had told myself that when I'm 45, I'm going to be back. And I had given that, I told them to Percy Bhai, who had sketched today, okay, Percy Bhai, I will be back when I'm 45. And I exactly did that. He remembered that thing. So I've been back in academics for last 4 years. And Percy Bhai has been very cooperative enough to let me try a lot of methods by which we are able to make study more relevant, academics more relevant to practice. So that is my goal, to make academics more relevant to practice. And I really feel that having worked for so many years and so many projects, I'm able to actually help the academics. So if there is a purpose like that today, then I think academics is very important for practice, and whosoever is doing well, I think they must teach, because that is a responsibility for the next generation.
But I think that was very appropriately said for the vision which we see for the college point of view. But when I see for the practice end, what do you think you gain from the academics for the office, apart from the finances, obviously?
My three of my principal partners, I have guided their thesis. Does that help? So it keeps you in touch with the new ideas. The new generations, they have very different exposure, and when you try to deal with them on day-to-day basis, you actually go down to a different zone to understand them, and that keeps your mind also more young. That's what I feel. So any day, I think it's good to be associated with academics.
There are another 3 questions, so you have to start responding.
Oh, okay. Okay, Kosha Majidhya says, since to be able to manage the practice is equally essential to be able to design well, how can academics cover this gap between practice and education? Oh, it cannot. So I think it's the other way around. Once you get into practice, you will have an overview and your version of how practice can be taught in academics. I think I'm not saying that there cannot be pure research done. It is also very essential for the evolution. But by and large, where I'm coming from, practice first and then academics is better. Okay. Next, Yogan Shah. He's asking, does the scale of the firm matter in getting you more projects or the large scale projects? And if at what scale you can accept or deny to do a project? I think it's a struggle which everyone goes through. We also go through it all the time. How do you measure that whatever manpower you have, how many projects or what scale of projects you can handle? So that realization only comes when you handle it. So as a practice, we always try to have more people than we need in the office so that we are ready to scale up. We have systems in place which help us to scale up. But otherwise, it is very difficult to get an exact balance of the large projects, kab hoga, kaise hoga, and your office scale. And if you can't do justice to a project, you should deny it, because a lot of resources are going to be put. Your client is going to trust you so much, and if you screw up the job, I think it will affect your practice. So that's a very, very simple question to answer. If you can't do justice, please deny the project. Santan is asking, I wanted to ask if you could reflect on any of the loopholes that one might face while growing, like getting stuck to doing something similar repetitively because of similar client base, how to break away from it and find a balance. I don't think there is anything wrong. See, architecture as a profession, the way I think it's being projected in college is that you are somebody who do great things. They never tell you that you are a service provider. So if you are good at doing a particular type of building, like for in our case, it is diamond factories, we are constantly getting deeper into it and making it better and better. Variety होना चाहिए ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है. You are a service provider. You provide your service to the best of your ability, and it should be fine. This whole thing of मुझे ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, hospital भी करना है, बंगलो भी करना है, it is just to satisfy the ego that you worked on everything, but it does not mean you are good at everything. So that is how we look at it. So whatever we do good, we want to do it well. And it's not that new categories don't open up. For instance, recently, a few years back, somebody joined in the office who has an exposure of retail design, which we never had. As an office for 16 years, we never did any retail design, any store design. And there's suddenly somebody coming in who comes with that kind of background. So we allowed that to flourish. We supported the person. And now we are doing quite a few retail designs, and I think we're doing pretty well, but it was not part of the plan. So a lot of things depends on the people also who bring things to the plate, and we need to be open about it. Raj Modi, out of 100 projects, there were definitely one project in which client was not satisfied completely. So what will be the learning from that, and what will be next step which you will definitely take in organization to rectify it for future projects? I guess Raj is from my own office. So Raj, I think a clear conscience is very important. Uh, if you've tried your best and if somehow you're not able to meet the client's expectations, you have to humbly accept it, communicate to the client, and you have to move on. I think that humbleness or the uh, ability to accept failures is something which will actually help the organization a lot.
Thanks a lot. I think it was wonderful.
Thank you, Shankar.
Thanks for accepting the invitation.
Pleasure.
Just before you, there was a computer science chap with investment banking background and with a background of startup who was there in the lecture, not related to architecture or anything. And now you complete that with examples. So I think today was wonderful, where you had somebody coming from very different discipline, but somebody who has taken a 20 years of journey to make it systematic, make it much more organized, and make it much more simpler for us at least to understand the complexity that lies in the practice itself. So it is so we don't. I don't know whether there is a theory for a creative practice, because I'm not aware about if there is, but certainly we know that there is a possibility of trying to do something systematic, which is extremely important. Because somebody else otherwise, or you are aware about the fact that somebody else will be taking care of that. But in either of the cases, it requires a certain degree of system, because there is an accountability which is beyond the creative part. Since we are doing work in the society, there are legal compliances which cannot change based on our moods. Neither can systems of how finances work change. All compliances don't change. So which means once you start removing all of these, you realize what is the window left for us to sort of do other works. And in that you decide what to do, because it's not that we are doing painting, which has your own authorship because you are doing on your own. It's architecture where we are responsible for the society, for what we put in, for the clients for which who is spending money and for which we are trying to build it, and also for all kinds of societal norms and societal compliances. So I think all got covered today with very good examples. Thank you for such a wonderful, enlightening talk.
Pleasure. Thank you.